Hello, greetings! Today I'm going to show you how to make an icon, quite like this one that I did for a commissioner a while back, and I quite like this one actually. So first of all I just want to say, use this more of as a guide rather than a step-by-step tutorial, because I just think we should all create our own stuff and be unique, and it's just not really work if you're going to copy the whole thing step by step. So take some bits out if you want and just experiment with your own kind of what you like, what you do. So the first thing you want to do is create a new canvas, and you want it to be 50 by 50 pixels. Now I am using a tablet for this, but you could use a mouse if you really tried hard enough. So you want to zoom in, and on the very first layer just select black and the pixel brush. Just make sure the opacity is set to the very high, and press in one of the corners, left, and then press shift, and the other corner. And it makes a straight line. And if I do that any space, it creates a straight line. But you just want to make a border around the whole thing. So do that. The next step I like to do is to make it completely symmetrical. You want to make a line just approximately down in the middle, where you think the middle is. Now, to test if it's symmetrical, there's a little button up here. It says normal next to it, and there's two little arrows that go opposite. Now you just press that, and you could tell if you're off the center. So I'm off the center quite a bit, so I'll make a line next to it. Again, pressing shift, and I'm still off center. So to erase stuff, you just press this little button here, which is if you want transparent, just erase stuff without actually getting the eraser, because you can't have an eraser that's also a pixel. So just do that, and when you're done, just unhatch it and test it again. And then it should be two lines. I usually make this blue, and it should be two lines down the middle. That's where the symmetry is. Now if I press this button, nothing changes. That's because the whole picture is completely symmetrical. So once you've done that, you want to take a look at your reference and just zoom in on the face. And you want to start basically with the liner. So make a new layer above the symmetry line layer, and that's where you're going to do your liner. So I usually start either with the nose or the eyes, because that's the focal point of the picture. So with the nose, you don't really have to zoom in, just go for it. Don't make it too wide, but just, this is a cute little kitty character, so you don't have to make the nose very big at all. Then the eyes, just look at the reference. Don't make it exact, make it kind of your own thing. And if you don't like it, just undo it, of course. And if you don't like it, just undo it. You want the pupils of the eyes to be very symmetrical and very circular, so just keep trying until you get that perfect shape. If you don't like it, you can go over it, you could add stuff in, just really play around with it. You want the pixel lines to be consistent, so if you look at this, it gets wider, but in a consistent style, so it doesn't look too bad if you zoom out. That's what you want. I think I'm gonna delete that there. And I don't quite like the eyes, so I'm gonna redo that. You could add eyelashes, just the little dots on the edge. I'm not gonna do that. And just keep zooming out, just pressing these two buttons to zoom out completely and see how it looks. Now I still don't like that eye, so I'm gonna change it to something more natural. At this point you could try and invert it as well, just to see how it would look. You could press the button really fast and you could see how it looks if you copied the other side over before you do it. And I don't like that, so I'm just going to draw in the pupil later in, because I don't think it's going to fit in here if I draw it in now. And this is a really nice circular shape. And now we're going to draw the mouth. And you want to stay on one side all the time, because then we're going to copy it over. And just start in the middle and try and make a little shape. A line, like a mouth. That will actually look good if you copy it over to the other side as well. Oh, that's fine. Usually here I adjust it, so I go into this little icon here, which is just called move, and then you can move it around and just stay on the symmetry line. But just you can move it up and down if you feel it's a little bit too low or too high. And then to make the chin, you just make a line like that. Ready? And keep adjusting it until you like it. And I think that's a little bit too high now, so I'm gonna lower it down. And oh, I like that. Yeah. But I still think the mouth and the nose is a little bit too high, so I'm gonna press this button right here, which is a selection tool, and just draw around it, and then we could go into the move tool and move it down, and to unselect everything just press selection clear. Sorry, I'm not explaining everything correctly. I've been doing this for over a year, and I just get used to like the hand motions, and I forget to actually think about them. So now the next thing we want to do, I have on my character a little bit eyebrow, like a circle above the eye, so I want to add that in. And every time a character has that little circle, I always add it in, because it really adds the character like definition. And if they don't have that, I usually add in eyebrows, or if they don't have eyebrows, then I don't add eyebrows, but yeah. Just add in whatever is on the character. You don't have to make it perfectly circular, but I think this fits in, maybe. Yeah, it looks fine. Sometimes I don't draw the neck in, but if I have a space about halfway on each side, if I have a little gap here, then I'll draw it in. So that's the neck. Yeah, so that's everything on the symmetry line. Now you just want to draw the top, the very edge of the ear right here. So like this, and that's the very edge of the ear. And then you could draw in a little line there. Especially characters with small faces, you want to do that. If they have a big face, if they have no hair or anything, you might want to skip that. Again, I'm drawing that because my character has hair on only one side, or the other side is completely clear. So on the other side, I will have just hair here. covering that bit up. So now the next thing you want to do is go to layer and copy that layer. Then you have two versions of the layer. Now you want to go into the little square here, and where is it? There it is. So scroll down until you find flip horizontally, and you want to press that on the top layer, and then go into the move tool and move it over. And there you have your symmetrical, perfectly symmetrical face. This is very helpful to make the shape and the proportions very accurate, so it looks really good when you finish it. Now you want to go to the layer and merge down. So you merge those two layers, it's all in one layer now. Now you could make adjustments if you want to, so I'm gonna select only the eyes and move the eyebrows and just move them a little bit down. Actually, maybe not. Move the nose a little bit down. That's what I want to do. Yeah, there we go. So now that looks... hold on. Takes a lot of adjusting to get it perfectly right. And there we go. So after you've done that, you can hide or even delete this symmetry line if you wanted to, and make a layer above this layer. And you don't have to name them. There's, I think, about 5-6 layers that you need to do, so it's not going to be terrible if you don't name them. Just want to draw in the hair now. So this character has sweeped in bangs on the side, so you want it generally across the face, but you still want to show the eyes because you want to animate the eyes later. So I'm gonna... nope, that covers the eye too much. And that's our line. That's our first line. And she has like lines throughout her bangs, so it has like sections of hair. So we want to define that and just separate it. And then you can set the opacity to a little bit lower on the bottom layer, this one, and erase all the stuff that is not necessary because it's covered up by the hair. So this bit has been covered up on this part of the face. Alright, so now that you got the bangs there, you can do this and merge those two layers down. So now we have the line art completed. We can start coloring. So just grab a color. Actually, I'll start with this one. And make a layer underneath the line art. Now you want to go to your bucket tool, and on the target, make sure it's selected all image, so that it takes everything from the whole image, and it should just fill right up like this. Now this character is white, so you want to make a layer underneath that and just fill it with a random green color. So select working layer and then just fill it with green. Go back to all image on there and go back to your reference, grab the color and put the color in. What is it though now? There we go. So if it's grabbing too much of the image, just change the color difference. That way it grabs less of the image. And then you just want to fill in all the bits of the color. And blue eyes. Nose. Just make sure you got all the solid colors down before you start adding details as well. So again, white eyes. And then once you've done that, you can actually preserve opacity, which locks the layer in. So you can't draw... actually I missed a bit there, but but if you lock the opacity, so preserve opacity, it doesn't go out the lines, it doesn't go on these bits, so it doesn't go on the green. You can delete the green now, don't need it. So we want to put in some of the details that are not in the line art now. So go back to your pixel brush and select a color that you need. and just start drawing. That looks okay. And again, pick a color and just remember where all the features are and draw them in and then fill them in. Again, I do this only on one side at a time, so then I can invert it and see exactly where it's supposed to be on the other side as well. So, like this. And then I could fill that in. Whoops. Turn down the color difference, and there we go. And just do some more features. There's a little line here. And a little dot here. See, I can't remember my own character. Oops. Want to do that? Yeah. If you want to erase stuff while you're coloring it, you just, if you, let's say, want to erase part of this grey stuff, just pick the color next to it with your left click or on the pen, and just use the color to erase it. Don't actually erase it because it will erase the actual coloring and then you won't be able to shade over that, and it will just cause you lots of issues, so don't do that. Just keep doing that. And I think that's about it for coloring, so we can move on to the next stage, which is shading. This is the most fun part. It's also very complicated, but I'm sure it'll be fine if you try. So you want to make above your color layer, make a new layer, and click the clipping group. This makes it so the shading layer doesn't go over anything on the background, it just goes into the coloring layer. So just pick a purple, a deep purple or red, whatever works best for you, and just go around here where it's kind of dark but it still has color in it. And usually I do this, so I select about a 5 pixel brush, and then I lower the opacity to about 5 or 7. Now on this layer, you barely can see it, but you just make the very, very lightest shadows. That's the very first step you have to do. And above the eyes as well, make it so the darkest parts of the eyes are on the very top, and the lightest are on the bottom, and the face as well. The face has to be darkest at the bottom, and just define the features of the face. And then once you've done that, you just increase about 10 or 15 the opacity, and just go back in. And just slowly build the shading up, like you would do on a normal drawing anyway, so. And the nose and the mouth. Yep. And once you get go up in the opacity, you could start increasing it more and more, because by then it doesn't matter as much. You can't see as much when it goes up like that. I'm sorry, I don't know how to describe it. Now as well, you want to make lines in the hair where there aren't lines, so just make simple lines, and that gives kind of definition to the hair and some kind of structure. So and keep going. By the way, if you want to make a bridge from the nose to the mouth, like some characters have, you don't fill this little bridge gap with black, because then it makes it too dark and it looks kind of awkward if I show you. So it kind of looks, I don't know, you could try it, but I just think it looks a little bit too much. So you just lower the opacity on that, and it still looks like a bridge gap. A bridge gap? What am I calling it? A kind of a nose to mouth gap bridge. But it doesn't look as harsh as it would if it was solid black. But since this character doesn't have it, I'm not going to add that in. Now, if you think that's a little bit too much work and it doesn't really look like it's shaded properly, you could add stuff in back with the airbrush tool. So just select about a 9 brush, and you could set the density to lower so it doesn't work as much. And you could just add stuff in, especially on lighter characters like this one. I sometimes find that the shading that you do is kind of a little bit too not enough. So I just add some stuff back in. Now the reason you don't want to do the airbrush straight away is because then the shading just looks like it's airbrushed, and you don't want that look. And make the lightest part of the hair around here where the line would, the light would shine. That's what I meant to say. And around the nose. There we go. Let's make it very dark on the neck. And that's how we shade. Now we can move on. Actually no, we still have to blur it a little bit. Blurring just helps like even it out and make it a little bit nicer. So just make it a little bit smaller. Just even out some of the surfaces. If there's any weird things that you missed out on or anything you wanna just perfect, you just go and blur it a little bit. Not at all, just a little bit. You don't want a blurry mess in the whole thing, so you don't want to do that either. Now the next thing you want to do is create another layer on top of it, and again clip and group. This is going to be the light layer, so you want to switch your color to white, and again pixel brush, but this time, oh yeah, the last layer you have to set the mode to multiply, and then especially on different colored characters, it makes the shading a little bit blend in a little bit nicer. And this layer on top of it, you want to set that to luminosity, which makes it looks like light, basically. Look like light. I'm sorry, I had a long day. Now we want to do the same thing on the light layer, so just set the opacity very low and just go in. Now this character doesn't need any lightening on its fur, but you want to add still on the hair and on the eyes, on the nose maybe, and any parts that are different colors. And just keep increasing it. Now we want to go around the lines we created earlier, so not on them, but above them, except for that middle line where we're gonna have a shine. Just on top of them. I mean, up around them, not on top of them. And just erase any bits that you kind of messed up on. And And I think that's about it for shading. Next layer. Next layer we want to do, what do we want to do next? I guess we could add the shine to the eyes, so make a layer on top of everything else. And with the pixel brush, set the opacity to 100, 255, that's the top one. And make 2 little dots in the eyes. So like this. Well, actually 3. And you want them to go like that, in that kind of shape. So a big one, a small one, and then a small one on the other side. And you don't want this to be inverted on the other side, you want it to be exactly the same. So they're both facing that way. And there we go. So that adds the shine to the eyes. And then we want to start coloring the line art. So this is where it really gets fun. You want to go to the line art layer, this layer, and preserve opacity. Now you want pure colors for this, and select the airbrush tool, go about 20 or 30, and just pick a dark blue and go around the eyes slightly and just color it a little bit. And then around the center of the face you just want to add hints of yellow and pink. Where the nose is, you want a little bit of pink. Light blue on the bottom of the eyes, just a little bit, we don't want too much. And any kind of color that you feel will fit in. So this character has very light blonde hair, so I think like light yellow and I forgot the word for orange, oh my god, just add that in. So that the line blends in a tiny bit with the rest of the drawing. Some dark purple on the bottom, and use the same color that you used for the shading around the parts that are darker. And then you could go back in with black and just fill some bits in if you feel they're too colored. And then around the lightest parts of the drawing, like top of the nose, bottom of the eyes and corners of the mouth, you want to actually go in with a little bit of white and just color this in. Tiny bit of white there and here and top of the nose. So now it's kind of like blurred in and really nice. Yeah, that's how it looks. And then you want to do the same thing for the next layer above, which is the border. So preserve opacity and just pick colors from the edges and just start filling it in with the colors next to the border. And that applies for the white bits as well. Just fill them in with a little bit white. Leave the darkest parts dark and the lightest parts light. But don't go completely overboard with it. You still want it to be a border. And that's how you do it. And then you could go in with a bigger brush and just with black on top of that, just to make it really a little bit darker so it doesn't stand out too much. Doesn't look too awkward, is what I was meant to say. So now it kind of looks like we've completed the thing, and you can stop here if you want to. But if you want to take it an extra step, you can add some shine to it. So make a layer above everything else and set the mode to overlay. This is going to make the colors really pop, and you want to go in with white, and around the border inside it just use the shift thing again. I am failing so bad, I'm pressing all the wrong keys. I'm sorry. Come on. and just press around it. And you can erase it, some of that later if you want to, but I usually go in around the eyes as well, the pupils of the eyes, just make them prettier and shinier. You could go in here as well if you wanted to. Just gonna do this. That's too light, so I'm not gonna do that. Just go around the eyes, around the pupils, anywhere you think it needs a little bit more pop and a little bit more just shine, just add it in. Around the line art, that's what you want to do. Now I've run into a bit of a problem here, because I have this shine here, this line, but I also need to make a line here around the hair, so I'm probably going to erase this bit and leave this bit in, at least a little bit in. So I'm going to erase it with the airbrush tool, just to make it softer when I erase it. And then I'm going to go in with this one. That's how you do it. And then around the face as well. That's what I usually do. This style actually took me a year to develop, so if you look back on my old icons, they're actually very different if you look closely, because I changed my style a lot. I added some new features in. By features I mean stuff I do to it, so in the beginning I didn't do this overlay layer. I never did that, but now I do, because I think it looks great if you do it. And then if you feel some lines are too light, they're completely white or something like that, if you just think it's a little bit too much, you can go in with the airbrush, set it to the erase, and just erase some bits, like around the edges. I always think that's a little bit too light, and some of the eyes as well. And there you go. That's another effect added in, and you can really tell the difference. It looks very, very good with that in. Now the last extra step that you might want to consider doing, if you really want to, is add a layer above it and just add colour in. If the character looks a little bit odd on the colouring side, you could go in with some of the colours that are present in the character's face. So this one has blue and dark blue and light gold colours. So I'm going to use the airbrush tool and just set it low and just go in with some of the colours. Now don't be scared, it's not going to look like this after it's finished. This is just so I can see what I'm doing while I'm setting the colours down. And then once you've done that, it really takes 5 seconds to do it, so just set it to overlay, and you can see it makes a tiny difference, but it does look better. Looks much better. And if you feel that's too strong again, just set the opacity a little bit lower. I think that looks perfect. So that's how you make a solid icon. Now the next step would be to actually animate it. So that's going to take a little bit of time. Yeah, just delete the... On the bottom you should still have the symmetry line. You can delete that now if you wanted to. Unless you deleted it earlier, then yeah. Now I usually save the file. So just save it to my pictures. And I save it as a PNG at this point. Yep. And just set it to each pixel have opacity at the moment. So you have some bits on the edges that are actually not coloured in. And then I save it as a sci file as well. Just so if I get something wrong, I could go back and change it again. Now the next step you want to do is select layer and merge visible layers. You don't want to merge them one by one, because then all the data on all the shading and stuff will be kind of compressed and it won't look as good. So you want to merge all layers, and it just merges them right down like this, and then it's all on one layer. Now, because, I don't know, Sai is a bit weird, it makes some of the stuff that was transparent coloured, so I just erased that. Anything that will be a bit weird. If you want to see better, you could just make a layer underneath with a weird green again, and you can see those parts would have been white. We don't want them white, we want them transparent. And you could delete that. The next step, I'm just going to make an example animation, so I'm going to do a blinking animation. There's other animations obviously, but I'm just going to show you this one, because it's the simplest one. Actually, maybe it's not the simplest one, but it's the one that I do the most, and I think it's the one that people want to try. So I'm just going to go to Layer and Copy, and on a new layer that we have, just make a line halfway down the eyes of the eyelid color. So it looks like the character is closing her eyes. And then take the color from around the eyes and just fill in the top part of the eyes. Now this part looks a bit weird because it has different colors on it, but you don't want different colors. You do. See, I'm messing up my words now. You want this to blend in, so you just go in with the blur brush and just set it very small. And you don't want the density to be very high. Just choose a color next to it and just blend it in. And I want to make the part of the eyes that's closed a little bit lighter as well. So you could do that with an airbrush or a blur if you press hard enough. And then you could go back over the eyelid and just darken that up. And it doesn't matter how it looks, because you won't see it in the animation anyway if it looks a bit wonky at this point. So now you just want to do exactly the same thing on the other side. Make it as symmetrical as possible. And blur that in. And then copy that layer. So copy, layer copy, and completely close the eyes. So make a line just above where the eye ends at the bottom, and just fill it in. Obviously this will take some time to getting used to, and you have to try a bit, but you know, you could always go back in and change it if you feel that it doesn't look good. Now keep zooming out and keep checking it so it looks alright. There's a weird shadow on this that I don't particularly like. I might just blur that out a little bit on the second layer. Blur that out a little bit, and on this layer as well. And it looks the same. Good. do the same to the other eye. Just highlight some of the eyeball just to make it lighter. Again, it doesn't matter if this looks awkward because it'll only be on the screen for about 1 frame, so. Now that you've done that, just zoom out and you want to copy the second layer above the last layer and copy this layer as well. No, not this one, this one. The very bottom one. So now we have 5 layers in this order. Like this. And then you could file and save as, and go to your desktop and save that as a PSD file, which is a Photoshop file. Now I save it as a Photoshop file because Sai doesn't have a gimp file, which is what I use to animate my my icons. So now we want to open up gimp. Gimp 2.6.11 is what I use. So just wait for that to open. And it's on my other screen. Okay. So this is what you should see when you open it. If it's the first time you used it, well, have fun trying it out, I guess. So you just want to open, I'm just dragging it from the desktop in here. Now that we have gimp open, you can see all the layers, and you want to go to filters, animation, playback, and that plays the animation for you. So you can see it's alright. However, it doesn't have the between the blinks. It doesn't have a space between it. So we want to go to. Actually, before we add that space in, we want to make it compatible with DeviantArt. So we're going to compress it down, and there's a little Optimise option for GIF. Please don't get mad at me. I say GIF, okay. So we're going to go to Animation, Filters, Animation, Optimize for GIF. And that compresses the image down. It doesn't actually change any of the animation. It just makes it less kilobytes, so that you can actually upload it if it's too large. Now to add the space in, you will notice that the names of the layers have changed. So on the very top layer, it says 100 milliseconds. I want to change that to 1000 milliseconds. And that's it. That's all you have to do. And after that, you just save the file. Say on my desktop as a GIF. So just select. So just type in the title.gif. And press enter. And when you get this up, you want to save as animation, export, and save again. And that should be it. That should be it, unless, nope, it's broken. So my GIMP, I changed the milliseconds, but it doesn't actually change them. So I just usually close GIMP at this point. And then go back in to the same file that I just saved and edit with gimp. I think it changes the layer names as it saves it. That's why it doesn't like to compress the 1,000 milliseconds. So just do the same thing again, 1,000 milliseconds instead of 100 on the layer that you want to extend. And if I show you what that looks like, because I didn't last time, I don't know. So it blinks, stops, and blinks again. It loops. So just again, save it the same file, yes, replace, save as animation, and save. And now it should work. Here we go. That's how you make an icon. Just upload it normally to DeviantArt and there you go. I could set it as my icon right now actually. Now don't be put off if that takes you more than 50 minutes, because this took me 50 minutes. If I edited this, then you probably won't see that, but it took me around 50 minutes. My record time is about 20 minutes. I think that's the most recent icon I've done. But it did take a year of practice to get to that time. At the beginning, I was making these up to 2 hours, so it really does take practice, it takes time. Again, you know, you just have to experiment, and please don't copy this exactly step by step. Just take parts from it and make your own style, change a bit, you know. I hope this helped you if you wanted to make icons. So I guess thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.